Alright guys, you ready? So decision makers are forced to guess the outcome of their choice. Harming a minority and benefiting a majority doesn't build mutually beneficial relationships. I said that right? Mutually beneficial relationships. It also does not always make it possible to predict the outcome of a decision. So keep that in mind. You guys taking notes?
Yes.
Alright. What are you doing? Are you
I'm taking I'm taking a video so that I have it for notes later. You forget I take my notes by a video.
Okay. Alright. Deontological ethics. The ideal that with dignity and respect. Now, by identifying one's duty and acting accordingly, we can display deontology in our own lives. Okay?
What did you do to it?
They probably canceled me. Again.
They canceled Dexter.
Alright, so
That's a lie.
maybe disagreements here.
I never watched a single
Hey.
video from after my level.
Guys.
Listen up.
Listen to Dexter.
Evan speaks. My brain zones out automatically.
Okay. Now there may be some disagreement about the principles involved in the decision, and the possibility of making a right choice with bad consequence. And also there's the possibility of conflict in duties, and the strongest model applied for public relations ethics. Next one, virtue ethics. Considering what virtues make a good public relations professionals.
Virtue ethics was what the last unit was on. That was unit 1.
Guys, you have to pay attention, Robert. Alright. Making a decision in light of those favored virtues is how you can display virtue ethics. Okay, now, but there is some problems with this one. Missing the importance of obligation to client and public. So that's a big problem. And the possibility of a conflict in virtues. Because, we don't know what it is.
Everyone has different virtues, so that can create conflict.
Yep.
You're gonna have to tell her next slide when you want to.
Alright, next slide. Let's see this one. Okay, so we're gonna do a Jeopardy. Introduction.
This is what we're going to be going over this unit. We're going to be going over empiricism, rock and Rousseau, I think that's how you say it.
Rousseau.
I think everybody's on the social contract and the categorical imperative by
Alright,
Can
I
we
need
please
to know,
instead do what Dexter wants?
are there any questions?
No, not yet.
Alright, that's good. Okay. Deontology is an approach to ethics that focuses on the rightness or wrongness of actions themselves, as opposed to the rightness or wrongness of the consequences of those actions. Now, think about that first. Take that in right now.
Taking it in.
Just take your notes if you need to, or do whatever you want. All right, next.
Next.
Can you reteach this when he's done?
It is sometimes described as duty-based or obligation-based ethics because they believe that the ethical rules bind people to their duty. The term deontology derives from the Greek deon, meaning obligation or duty,
I love how you
and
put
logos,
those.
meaning speaking or study, and was first used in this way in 1930 in the book 5 Types of Ethical Theory by C.D. Broad, 1887 to 1971. Let us have a moment of silence. We need a moment of silence for C.D. Broad. C.D. Broad. Okay, thank you for that moment of silence. 1971, deceased.
It took him
Next.
that long to write a book?
Did you?
Over 100
No.
years.
No, that's
Oh.
a lifetime.
Oh, they called you.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
where does it say 1981?
Yeah, the front desk called you.
Evan,
Sorry.
Evan, where's it
Yeah,
say
Dexter's
1981?
teaching the class now.
Next, please.
This is 1971, by the way.
Is that what did I say?
1981.
Oh, well.
Can't even get something right after having a
Sorry.
hard time.
Did you do CD broad in order to mess with Dexter?
Next. Oh, okay. To a deontologist, whether a situation is good or bad depends on whether the action that brought it about was right or wrong. What makes a choice right? Is its conformity with a moral norm? Right takes priority over good. For example, if someone proposed to kill everyone currently living on land that could not support agriculture in order to bring about a world without starvation, a deontologist would argue that this world without starvation was a bad state of affairs because of the way in which it was brought about. Alright,
Mr. Dexter, do you approve of that message?
I'll take their word for it.
Alright,
Alright, next.
Dr.
Okay.
Dexter, what does deontology really mean to
Are you a mister or a doctor?
I don't know.
Has
Well, I'm actually a doctor, but my degree was got in the Soviet Union, so it's out of date. So it doesn't really, it doesn't exactly match up with requirements of modern day or the United States of America.
Mr. Dexter, what are your thoughts on climate change?
So basically,
How often do you think about the Roman Empire?
when deontology says about climate change is that sometimes climate change is cool, but I would just ask a CD Broad about that, and he'll get back to you.
You're dead.
So unfortunately, we do not know much about climate change because we no longer have CD Broad to make comment about that, because he truly is the father of deontology. Deontology may sometimes be consistent with moral absolutism, the belief that some actions are wrong no matter what consequences follow for them. But not necessarily. Okay? For instance, Immanuel Kant famously argued that it is always wrong to lie, even if a murderer is asking for the location of a potential victim. Alright? Think about that for a second.
Should we tell him where the potential victim is?
So,
Or should we
Murderers
not?
asking for the location of a potential
So this is,
victim?
Yep.
so this is where it comes in.
So basically, you're kidnapped, right? And they're asking for a location of someone that they want to potentially harm. He would say that you should give it to him because you shouldn't lie.
So this is where it gets controversial. Raise your hand if you think that you agree with W.D. Ross on the fact that you should give away the potential
No, it's
victims.
But Emmanuel can't.
What you should do
Kant
is just
that
say,
says that.
Kant. Oh.
what you can do, you
Emmanuel
can just say,
Kant.
oh,
Okay.
he's a
All right.
good sec. I don't even know where it is.
Raise your hand if you agree with Immanuel Kant that you should give away the address of the potential victim for the sake of not lying. Now
It's
raise
not
your
lying
hand
if they're in
raise your hand if you agree with that. If you disagree.
If you disagree.
Alright, John, we got Nick.
Oh, no, I'm not raising my hand.
Okay, so we got John. So I guess no one else is participating. And Dylan, of course. Okay. Next.
Oh my. Hey.
He said next.
No,
Oh,
this
I'm
is the
sorry.
second bullet.
But others such as W.D. Ross, 1887, 1877, 1971, hold that the consequences of an action,
In one moment.
such as lying, may sometimes make lying the right thing to do. Now this is called moral relativism.
Relativism?
Relativism. Next, please.
So basically, he says that the consequences of lying sometimes make lying okay.
Criticisms of deontology. Robert Nozick, 1938 to 2002, famously points out what has become known as the paradox of deontology. That deontology forbids some acts that maximize welfare overall. The example usually used is that of a trolley hurtling towards 5 innocent and immobile people at the end of a track, where the only way to stop the trolley and save the 5 is to throw one innocent bystander in front of the trolley. The principle of permissible harm in deontology rules out deliberately throwing a person in front of the trolley, but the consequences of that is that 5 innocent bystanders die.
What are you holding?
Think about that for a second.
So you're just a bad thing goes, think about that for a second.
Which also contravenes the principle of permissible harm. Any questions?
None right now.
Roll.
Can you just point to where it like states that? I'm just a little confused.
Where? Say
Like
what?
where it states that you should throw somebody in front of the bus. It's pretty
I'm
much.
really confused what's happening.
Here.
Is this something that Evan himself
Okay.
posted?
Bro, you couldn't easily split it.
All right.
Why?
All right. Ready?
Yes.
Is that also
Empiricism.
Empiricism.
Thank you. All right.
He really
Next.
shouted out before he started.
There were 2 responses to skepticism: rationalism and empiricism.
I'm sure we all know what rationalism is. I don't
Yeah.
think I need to.
Raise your hand if you do not know what rationalism is.
rationalism?
Okay. So
Do you know what
rationalism.
rationalism is?
Rationalism.
It's right there.
Okay, I'm sorry. The belief that reason is the most reliable source of knowledge. That makes sense to you? I assume it makes sense to Riley as well. Can we go to the next slide, please? Empiricism. Belief that sense experience is the most reliable source of knowledge. Now that might be a little bit odd, but as you look at it more, you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
Evan, what is sense experience?
It's experience, physical experience. Well, it could be mental and all that junk as well.
Would you consider mental health to be fake?
That's not important right now.
Okay.
I have to know. I have to know.
Next slide.
So,
Next one.
okay. What leads us to truth, or gives us our best shot of getting there, are things like induction and the scientific method. Now, these are ways of thinking that tell us about the material world.
Get it? Get it? Read it? And I'm like, go.
Not the mental one.
All right, John Locke. Locke believed that we are all born as tabula rasa, blank state.
Slate.
I can't reach.
Argued that all knowledge is obtained through experience. He rejected the concept of innate ideas. The view that we are born preloaded with certain information. Like, what is good versus what is bad.
So which philosopher disproved that?
Think about that class.
Think about that. I love how you just.
We went over a philosopher that believed we were born with preloaded information.
How do you remember
Just
that?
bump.
Isn't it
What
Thomas
is it?
Aquinas
Share with the
or?
class. Aristotle, very good thump. Okay.
So
We are born
instead-
knowing nothing. And instead, all of our knowledge comes to us through sense data
Or experience.
or experience. Okay. Just because your senses tell you something does not mean it is always right. After all, sometimes your senses give you false information. Like when you see or hear something that is just not there. To figure out whether the senses actually reflect the outside world, he introduced a distinction between what he called the primary and secondary qualities of all things. Primary qualities, qualities that physical objects themselves have. They are not in our minds, they were actually in the stuff. That's vague, but I assume matter and so forth.
I just gave examples.
Solidity, density, weight, and mass of an object.
Solidity. Solidity?
I just said that.
Dexter, are we beneath you?
Exactly.
Yes? What is it?
Are we beneath you?
What?
Are we beneath you?
I don't know what you're saying. Height, width, and depth that a certain object has. Figure and shape of an object. Mobility, whether it's stationary or in motion.
You look happier than normal.
And it belongs to the things itself. Okay?
Mr. Dexter, will you be giving us a test about this?
This may be on the test. Again, it all depends how you behave in class, alright? Next, please.
Make sure you know primary and secondary qualities, because they will be on a test at some point.
Alright, ready?
But, so give us an example of primary qualities.
Just trash.
So, Molly, just alright. A primary quality is, you could say,
Take this object.
I'll take this up.
I'll take this object.
So, what can you notice physically about this object?
It's, the
It's
same
a
color as
container.
your shirt, which is really surprising.
Okay, so
Evan,
it's
we're
color.
talking about primary qualities, not secondary qualities.
This is primary.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's all
how about
primary.
the weight of it?
Evan, would you please tell us what the density of that water
Color's in
bottle
here,
is?
is it? What
No.
color? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Evan, what would you say?
What is this? Is this a solid, a liquid, or a gas?
Looks like
A
a solid.
solid.
Solid, thank
But
you.
Evan, I want to know what's the density of that water bottle?
That's what it says, liquid.
Yeah, there's liquid in it.
Well, we're not gonna measure the density, but you can tell, if we were to measure this with a ruler, that would be an example. This is probably, what, like 10 inches, 11 inches long? I don't know.
Oh, I thought you were doing.
So it's the physical attributes of the water
Yes,
bottle.
how tall it is, how wide it is. We don't know how tall or wide this is, we'll figure it out, maybe.
Evan, how does it taste? If we're going to go over secondary qualities, how does it taste?
No, he's not.
We're not
drinking
going
the
over that
water
yet.
bottle.
We'll get to that in a
He's
second.
not drinking from my water.
Can you tell us how it tastes?
Okay,
Wait, it's a cylinder.
it is a cylinder, but is that one? Oh, yeah, there it is, okay.
Shake
It
it off.
is. Okay.
It's all the physical
And
attributes.
this is stationary. It is not in motion unless I make it go in motion.
This is stationary, I'm just shaking it.
Right?
We have to go over secondary qualities.
Oh, I didn't know that was there. Okay. They are not real secondary qualities. They are just in our minds. However, they are through primary qualities. So, the color. Well, I guess there are ways to measure color.
It's like grayish.
But, again, that is an adjective in some form.
Yeah.
You could call this gray, you could call this aqua, green, blue,
Miss Nelson, can you please
a
tell us
little bit of white in
this?
here too.
It tastes like water.
So,
Tastes like water.
and then
But water doesn't have a
if
taste.
you listen to taste,
So if I
taste,
wanted to eat your water bottle,
unfortunately,
it would
we
taste
are not going to taste it today, maybe
No.
another
Oh,
time. Texture. Well, actually, I could taste the bottle.
yes. Taste the bottle.
Texture, okay? It feels smooth, but again, that's an adjective, okay?
What's the texture in your mouth?
Does it smell like much to me? Yes.
What's the mouth texture of it though?
The what texture?
The mouth texture. You know, when you lick it, what does it feel like?
No, don't lick it.
Evan,
Do not lick it.
Don't. There will
Okay.
be multiple
And that
diseases.
sound, you can hear some ice inside of it.
What does it sound like
Some
when you
water.
throw it in?
Yeah, can you throw it like at my head?
Give me it back.
That's,
So the problem with secondary qualities is that everyone could see colors differently, everyone can hear things differently, everyone can smell things differently, everything can taste differently to someone else. So that's why they're considered not real.
Here,
Did the
here's
teacher
this,
give you
thing
leave
of
to
fun.
speak?
Open this up. Can you please tell us what this tastes like for a second?
No, please
I
give me
mean,
my water bottle back.
I don't want your
Evan.
fingers in it.
Evan.
Right, next.
Evan,
Oh, sorry.
thank you.
I've been living in Atlanta for 2 months in this country.
It's on the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So,
Read the top then.
Locke. This is continuing with John Locke.
Yes.
The distinction between primary and secondary qualities explain the disagreements that we all have about our perceptions of the outside world. We could easily disagree about the color of an object or the sound an object makes, but we cannot argue about the weight of an object.
You read?
Primary qualities have nothing to do with humans and human error, but everything to do with the object itself. Again, you can prove that something's a foot long, but you can't prove that it's smooth or rough. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. So, say we did taste the water bottle, what would you think that it tastes like?
What would I assume?
Yeah, what would you assume it tastes like?
It would probably taste slightly metallic-y, but with
Well,
that kind of
you know what they say, right? You know what they say, right?
That
Assuming makes an
Matt
ass out of you and
finish.
me.
What?
You know what they say, right? Assuming makes an ass out of you and me, so you should go taste that water.
No. Okay, so
right.
primary qualities can be measured, whereas secondary qualities can easily be incorrect.
I think I saw it. Okay. George Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Berkeley. Wow. Believed in empiricism so much that he took it apart and ended up using Locke's own logic against him. Okay. He basically took empiricism to its logical conclusion, dismantling the whole process of perception to the point that he had to wonder whether anything existed at all. Think about that for a second. Think about that. Okay. Now, as you think about that, look to your left.
Okay.
Look to your right. These people are all thinking about that.
Yeah.
And it's great meaning behind it.
Yeah. Woo.
What?
We don't even know if it ever existed at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First, he took apart the distinction between primary and secondary qualities, arguing one cannot exist without the other. You can't see a colorless apple. You can't feel a textureless apple. If you try to strip away the apple's secondary qualities in an effort to get at the primary ones, you end up with no apple at all. So take a look
Sad.
around the room. Many people have primary and secondary qualities. If you just took away the secondary qualities, you might not even have them in the first place. You know?
If we took away color, how, let's say this had no color, what would it look like?
Then it would look like nothing.
Probably clear.
No, it would look like nothing because if you take away color.
Exactly, why don't you talk about this for the next
If
10
an
minutes?
object was invisible, you can't measure it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's no light.
Well, if you can feel it,
it doesn't
that's
exist.
Well, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist
Yeah.
in its eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, the teacher's teaching wrong,
Next.
But that logic, that
This
glass
teacher
doesn't
sucks.
exist, I technically see right through it.
honestly.
Don't say
Teacher's the
How
best.
much do you get paid to do this?
Oh, I'm just. They said that if I
He's doing this
He's
out of
paid-
his-
They said if I did enough of this, I might get like a year off my sentence.
He's
So I agree.
he's paid.
This is work
You're
for
off
me.
What were you in prison for?
Alright,
What were you a
Locke
victim
asserted that secondary qualities are not objectively real. They can only be subjectively perceived.
I have a question.
Yes?
What were you convicted for?
I wouldn't
Doesn't
vote.
matter. Search it up.
Relationship wise.
Okay. Berkeley has shown that the two are linked and you can't have one without the other. Which means that primary qualities can't be real either.
He's very
They are just
inconsistent.
what your mind makes of
You know, he's
them.
also very inconsistent.
Okay. This led him to believe there's no such thing as matter. Okay, so I know what you guys might be thinking. What
Oh
the-
my god!
You know,
Evan, you fatally poisoned your mother with fentanyl? I looked up Evan Dexter crimes, this was the first thing that came up. You fatally poisoned your mother with
I
fentanyl?
feel like it
Wait,
doesn't
this
count,
dude?
you know?
Nikki, this one?
Dexter, you have to run. Run, Dexter. They found out.
Everything else is
Okay.
very inconsistent.
alright, so
No, this is Ben inconsistent.
now this one is one of those weird philosophical things that doesn't really matter at the end.
Does it
So,
matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really. I kind of get what they mean by this, but it doesn't really. Like, okay, like.
It doesn't.
Okay.
He believe that there's no such thing as matter, so
Are we gonna need to know
When
that?
he says matter, does he mean like physical object matter or matter as in nothing matters?
physical object matter.
Oh, okay. So, we'll go to the next one. There's no such thing as matter. There can't be. Instead, there are only perceptions. Okay, I see what he's
What?
percepi. To be is to be perceived. I tried to read it as French, but didn't. I don't think it looks kind of French. Oh.
That's Latin.
S.A. percepi.
That's Latin.
In his opinion, there are no objects, only perceivers.
I'm gonna watch this later.
Even then, perceivers
Did you
themselves
sleep last night?
don't really have any physical form.
Did you sleep last night?
They are just disembodied minds, perceiving things that are not really there.
So he basically believes that none of us are solid objects. We only exist if someone sees us.
It sounds like you went insane.
Kind of.
My hand passed right through him.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's all true. My hand
Makes
passed right
sense.
Yes, nothing is real.
That's
That's what he
Why are
believes.
you
Okay.
having a conversation with yourself?
In his mind, we are all set adrift in a world of nothing but thought.
What a defeatist mindset.
The problem is, if everything is just a perception, then when the perception goes away, there can't be anything left. Example, you can't go to sleep because as soon as you do, you will cease to exist. You can't perceive yourself while you are asleep.
I mean, clearly, the perception-
Sit here and think about that for a second.
I am.
Just think about that.
I can think about this.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
my
you.
mind was opened up.
You're welcome.
Oh man.
Believe
I
there was
stared into
only
the face
one
of
thing
God.
that kept us from everything else, from disappearing into nothingness. Berkeley believed that God was the ultimate perceiver. God is always watching with unblinking perception that holds objects in existence, even when we are not paying attention.
So basically, he believes that God is watching over all of us, and we only exist because he is watching. And the people who God is not watching ceases to exist.
Okay, makes sense, valid.
Oh.
Okay. So,
Imagine God.
the best way to come to truth being to examine things as really they are, and not to conclude that they are as we fancy of ourselves or have been taught by others to imagine. John Locke.
Hey,
Alright,
Get your hands off my candy.
what does that mean, Evan?
sum it up. Sum it up.
So many groups.
You truly never know what it is. Once you. Next, please. To love truth for truth's sake is the principal part of human perfection in this world, and the seed of all other
I'm
virtues.
assuming this is gonna be in the
John
transcript.
Locke.
Ass, bro. What is love?
What is it?
Maybe it don't hurt.
Ask John Locke about it.
Ask John Locke.
I'm sure he knows.
Hey,
Evan
live
does
right
not know love.
now? Is he live right now? Just,
John Locke?
yeah, John Locke.
No.
All right,
Sure about that?
everybody, we are going to have a moment of silence for John Locke.
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you for the okay. No man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. John Locke. You can't truly know something until you've actually done it.
What?
Next slide, please. Okay. Memory is the power to receive again
Revive.
in our minds. Oh. To revive again in our minds those ideas which after imprinting have disappeared or have been laid aside out of sight. John Locke.
Andy said I'm tired. I can't sleep.
Okay. Men's happiness or misery is most part of their own making. John Locke.
You keep looking back and going, John Locke.
knowledge is grateful to the understanding, as light to the eyes. John Locke. Okay, I'm getting kind of tired of it. Nothing. All right, let's skip this one. Okay, all right.
Get this one.
Alright. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? I want some thoughts on this one.
Thoughts, yeah.
Raise your hand to add to this. What are your thoughts? If no one hears it, does it make a sound?
I don't know, does it?
Yes, John?
Yes, I think it makes a sound. We just aren't around to hear it.
To be fair, if the sound is loud enough
That was like
and it hits the ground hard enough, the vibrations can make the leaves move. Those leaves were once alive and they experienced the shaking of the ground. And those trees that are nearby are alive. In fact, they speak, apparently, they've been testing, or they have concluded, that some trees speak in a volume that are so high that we just can't hear, or so low, one or the other, I don't remember. So those trees experienced it.
I love
Alright.
What are your thoughts on this?
yes, it makes a sound.
You have to say Mr. Teacher.
What are your thoughts on it, Evan?
I think that
Hallucinations right now. You don't hear it, it's not there. She's like,
it did happen, but in some, alright, in some social context, this could mean something.
What does Bert think of this? Does he think that makes a sound?
Doesn't say.
Well, he doesn't really care.
He doesn't really care.
You just wrote what you
Okay.
just read off of the slides.
Okay,
You
so
say
anyway.
he thinks it makes a sound.
I think he thinks that it does not make sense. But you know, there are some situations where in human knowledge, there are many things that people do that we will never know. Especially if they fix it, they cover it up or whatever, we'll never know. But of course someone will know.
Evan, did you know that John Locke really liked to moonwalk?
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, do you know how to moonwalk?
I'm not doing that right
You're
now.
really gonna
Okay.
love this quote.
What?
You're really gonna love this quote.
My brother's gonna love this quote.
You're really going.
Philosophy being nothing else but the study of wisdom and truth, it may with reason be expected that those who have spent most time and pains in it should enjoy a greater calm and serenity of mind, a greater clearness and evidence of knowledge, and be less disturbed with doubts and difficulties than other men. So why would all this?
How long it is.
I'll take it. Alright, any questions, guys?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Did you like that last quote?
It was alright. Made a little bit of
Do
sense.
you like this quote?
Alright, the only things we perceive are our perception.
I'm 14 and
Alright,
deep.
next.
Damn.
I know what I mean by the term in myself. And I know this immediately or intuitively. Though do I not perceive it as I perceive a triangle, a color, a shape, or a sound.
You even more with yourself. How things go with your birthday?
Not shape, color. Okay. Snitches get stitches. Ariana Grande.
No, that's definitely what
To
it
be
says.
is to be perceived. Berkeley. Well, he's kind of repeating himself, isn't he? My goodness. Okay. Okay, like, any quotes? Like, you don't have anything else? A real slide. Like something with some substance. What is mine? No matter. What is matter? Never mind. Berkeley.
What
Sounds
does that
like
mean?
Sounds like a talk show host.
Wait.
Like,
So have you ever heard the term mind over matter?
That is what it.
if I decapitate you,
so-
so mind over matter.
They're saying everything in the mind is not real, it's just all perceived.
If I decapitate you, is it still mind over
And
matter?
matter is never actually in your mind. You don't have I don't have if I take this box, the box is never gonna be in my mind, I'm just gonna perceive it in my mind. So matter can never be in my mind.
Evan, am I holding up my bag right now?
Sure you are.
Sure you are.
Human think. You all have opinions. Berkeley.
Wait.
So,
I think this guy's like the oldest version of Andrew Tate. And it's like this, like somewhat better than Andrew Tate, because at least this guy doesn't sound misogynistic. But
all right.
I think
next one.
Dexter's just getting done with the quotes.
That was the last one.
Oh,
Oh, then let's teach a new lesson.
so
Your lemonade is
Evan, do you want to
sour.
be?
I can just imagine Berkeley like setting up a fake camera for like a fake podcast. Like,
all right, I got some new quotes.
mind is over
You have new quotes? Tell us.
Tell us, please.
Oh, whoa! Dexter, you okay?
Dexter, you okay?
We're good.
Okay, it's okay, guys.
We're good. I'm good.
Are you okay, Evan?
Dude, that looked painful.
Fine.
Don't do that.
All right, is that good? Is it good?
It's not
Good, yes. Good.
Evan.
Thank you. All right.
Evan, is your computer broken? Oh, it's not broken. It's definitely broken.
No, it's not.
It's
So,
Apple.
It's not broken. It's fine.
okay.
Well, are you?
Alright, give us your quotes.
No.
Yeah, it's okay.
You should
Alright, Dexter, tell us what you think of John Locke and Berkeley.
You could have told me to move.
Sorry.
Dexter, tell us what you think of Berkeley and John Locke then.
End of presentation. Thank you.
End of presentation.